Brian, I've read the book, and I know people who watch this programme tonight will probably all have the same questions as me as to how did it get to that stage?
Well, that's hard to explain, but the 15 years while he was in control, Niamh, were a disaster for Irish football and for the game. What is a disgrace, as much as that behaviour that we saw there, was that there was so many people on the inside who knew the skullduggery that was going on and did nothing about it, said nothing about it, and went along with taking what bonuses were coming from being part of that culture, a fairly poisonous culture that was in the FAI at that time. And they took the benefits of it, and they went on the trips and celebrated on the good days and had the parties and the dessert. And sadly, I think some of those people are still around in the FAI, and they need to be cleared out. That's my view. That they never stood up, they never said anything, they allowed it to happen. And it really bugs a lot of people around the game that happened in that way. And, you know, people need to be given the answers as to how. I don't know how. I have some ideas how. But I haven't got all the answers as to how he achieved that, it seemed, remarkable power to almost do as he wished.
Too much power now.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course it has its consequences. You know, without him being brought to task by Mark Tighe, who knows how bad it would have got. But the association came near to bankruptcy, and if you put yourself back in 2016, we'd competed well in the Euros. The brand was on a high, and everybody thought, oh, this fella must be doing a good job. But obviously behind the scenes, it was awful stuff going on, and where the brand has got to as a result of all this, it's pretty low, Niamh.
Tell us what state the brand, the FAI brand, is in at this time now.
Well, rather than someone like me saying it, I'll tell you, we brought an agency in, a renowned world brand expert, and they did a deep survey for us at the FAI just in March, April time, May. And the result was, out of 100 top Irish brands, we were number 100. And if there were 200 brands surveyed, we'd have been number 200. It has gone to an all-time low, and also brings questions up of whether the brand should remain. It was that poor. And in normal business circumstances, you would put a lot of work into deciding whether that brand should stay alive or not. And that's just, you know, a snapshot of what this man is responsible for.
When those questions came up about whether to rebrand, kind of a la Olympic Federation style, what were the answers to that? What was that met with?
So we were in an interim capacity, and while we had to, you know, make sure that the government were happy with a change in financial governance, electoral governance, and reform, I should say, as well, you know, that was probably enough for us, and that looking at that, we think it's probably a question for the new incoming full-time CEO and where he goes. But yeah, it certainly, you know, has to be looked at. But then you have the centenary, you know, coming up, and we had hoped a Euros. So there's all sorts of thought processes going on. But the reality is, it couldn't get any lower. It's terrible.
This is all. The FAI is about football. How has football been damaged by all of this, Brian? By what we just saw there?
Well, I think the book does a great job in exposing the waste of money, the excesses that were involved in the time. We just saw some of the pictures there in relation to it. But what concerns me more, as someone who has always wanted the best for Irish football, is the damage that's been done to the game and the people that were thrown aside during that regime. The structures and the fundamental organisation around the game were dismantled and damaged during that period of time.
What kind of damage did you see?
Well, I saw lots of people being cast aside that were capable of speaking up for themselves, and they had the brains, the knowledge and the experience to move the game on. There were some brilliant structures put in place that people had worked very hard to find a method to do it, and things were going very, very well structurally, but they were dismantled. The people were thrown out. Those structures were underfunded. The money wasn't there to keep them going. Some people left because of that, other people were deliberately pushed aside. And that damaged the whole game. Now there's efforts being made to recover that. I don't think money alone will do it. It'll take a long time to get back the type of leadership that was around, that was really good leadership, as distinct from the poisonous leadership that was in place, and that it demoralised the game here, demoralised lots and lots of areas of the game, people that were involved in the League of Ireland, people that were involved in schoolboy football, people that were involved even around the international teams were demoralised. But, you know, that, and I'm sure about this, money itself just won't fix this. It needs really good leadership in the future.
Is that what it needs now? Morale to be boosted, it needs better leadership. Money is not going to fix this?
Yeah, you hope that a line in the sand will come and we can kick on and move on from this, but there are other investigations taking place, so we haven't heard the last. I believe, you know, in terms of going forward, that, you know, the finances are needed. It is needed, it is part of it. I agree with Brian, it's not everything. And I would hope, I'd have great hope that a new CEO coming in with the independence that will apply to the board, that there will be a structure in place that we can never go back anywhere near what had happened, but that building blocks will be put in place slowly to kick on. And just to give you an idea that, you know, as the sort of mess was unfolding, and we came in, Gary Owens and I came in there in late January, you know, you speak to potential sponsors, etc., and something else would come out on the Sunday papers, and, you know, the struggle to get people to believe in Irish football again is real. Brian is absolutely right, and the hope, you have to do it step by step, and we were brought in for a period of time, and we hope that, you know, now that I suppose that the financial governance is in place, that remember 96% of the game voted this back in the constituencies recently. So the game wants this, and there are good people out there who are hurt and damaged by this. And I'm not trying to, you know, tar everybody in what I'm saying. But the fact of the matter is, bit by bit, it will happen. And I would hope a new CEO coming in will be supported. I wish him really well. From the point of view of what he's been left with, he's been left at least with a shot of doing something because of the finances. But Brian is right. It will take a good bit of restructuring around the game, and the instilling of belief again in sponsors that it's the right place to go with their money, and for them to back Irish football.
But Brian mentioned at the beginning of this chat as well that there are still some people, part of the old regime, still in there at the moment. Can things change when there's still that hangover from the times that we just saw in that VT just there? Well,
I would have thought that there are some people in there who feel they're harshly blamed for being part of it, that they hadn't got the ability to intervene, and so that's understandable that they would say that. And sometimes you know, I've listened to one or two stories, and you kind of, this guy completely lost the run of himself, Niamh, you know, and formed in the end a dictatorship that just is beyond belief in the modern world, and some of the stuff that went on. But, you know, that's you know, in some ways there are investigations looking at that stuff. But I suppose the bit that I look when it says that is, we need younger, brighter, more brilliant people in all areas of the game. And as much as some of these people have put in great work and should not be affected by what happened, and there are lots of them, and maybe some are unfairly blamed as well, I do think that the game needs to start again. And there's a replenishment needed where good football people will go in and do it, backed by a strong structure, and of course enough belief and confidence, A, from the government who fund, and B, from the corporate world, that this is worth getting behind.